Hello. Hello. Good evening. That looks foggy. Oh my goodness. Hold tight. Is that better? Yes, it is. How are you this evening? I hope that you are doing well. It's been a minute, and we are looking at the full moon in Scorpio tomorrow, which is an exciting one. It's a really exciting one, and I love it. I love when we have exciting transits that are going to give us clarity and so on and so forth. And so, welcome to Sangoma Society, where we demystify the ancestral and the astral. Mina Makhosi Nomabutho, and this is Sangoma Society. So tomorrow, on the 6th of October, we have a supermoon in Aries. When we say it's a supermoon, the moon is nearer to the earth. It appears larger, and sometimes the tides can be more responsive to the moon than usual. And this moon is going to be taking place while Neptune is retrograde in Aries, but at different degrees. Neptune is holding the first degree of Aries, and now, ooh, Marcos, no, Marcos, Marcos. Uma sikhona isangoma esingenile, siyakhuleka emkhosini. Makhosi sibingelela zonke iy'ndlondlo ey'khona. Sijabule ukuba nani. Makhosi. Njalo-ke, Neptune holding that first degree of Aries and what that means. So Neptune in Aries is in its most revolutionary point, right? So we're seeing Neptune wanting to take action, the dream space, very revolutionary, very much in a space of change, right? And we have the moon going into Aries tomorrow, which is ruled by Mars. And one of Mars's other rulers is Scorpio, which is where Mars is currently domiciled. So Mars is currently in the sign of Scorpio, where it is moving much more slowly, much more privately, much more secretively. So the actions that we're taking, stetela pants. We are not talking so much outwardly about these actions that we're taking. And this moon is saying act. But what action is it that you're taking? Let's look into that. Neptune, retrograde. Very slow moving planet. We call this one of the collective planets. And in this house, we say slow horses of the revolution, right? Because all these massive, slow moving planets are currently stationed in their most revolutionary signs. And when Neptune is moving retrograde, Neptune being the ruler of dreams, we are seeing some revelations happening in that dream space, right? So things that we weren't aware of coming to the surface, coming to our attention. And now the full moon in Aries is saying, okay, now that we are seeing these things, and when I speak about the dream space, I mean like iptongwing when you're sleeping, right? Now that these revelations are coming to you in this way, what action are you going to take? Aries wants to go. It's the youngest sign in the zodiac, always ready to move, right? But every time we have a full moon, we have an opposition. The sun is in the opposite sign of the moon. And currently, the sun is in Libra. Yo! E! Makhosi. E! Makhosi. Yay! Makhosi. Libra is also the sign that Mars was very recently in. And with this, there's been a lot of considerations being made, right? A lot of decisions having to be made. However, Libra, the sun in Libra, kind of has a public relations persona where it is very concerned with how will people see the action that I'm taking, right? And that is something that the current astrology is going to pull you back from and bring you back into what really matters. And we need that. We need that so much because as the astrology keeps moving forward, as the month goes forward, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, moments of like real like windows of opportunity that require you to be at your most authentic, at your truest point, right? And right now, what the current transits are doing is trying to get us to that place. So you've got this Neptune retrograde. Neptune retrograde is dominating your dream space. You're starting to connect dots. And if you um, do follow the guidance that we give, you have a dream journal. So you might be seeing a dream pattern that is resurfacing from a time before now. For me, it was looking like December 2022 dreamscape currently, right? And looking back at how the dreams of December 2022 were interpreted and what's playing out now in the dream space and in real life, I'm starting to see where action can be taken, right? However, again, what considerations to make about these actions and where do you place yourself in these actions? Another planet that is currently in Aries is Chiron. So Chiron is considered I don't know, not quite a planet, but it's a planet, right? We call Chiron the wounded healer. And Chiron entered Aries back in 2018. Now, there are decisions, actions that were taken, and very likely actions that were taken in secret back in 2018 by you, unknown to others, that are now um, coming home to roost, right? There's some, there are ramifications that have come home to roost and things that are going to require you to confront them. And if you're being honest with yourself and really interrogating what you're seeing in your dream space, then you will see where it is that you have to say, okay, how do I take accountability for my part in this? Some of the things aren't things that you did. Some of the things that you're seeing are things that other people did. And in which case, then sugum, don't sit, do not sit, stand up and do something about it. Protect yourself. Again, Mars in Scorpio really, really does instruct you to take action, to fortify yourself, to protect yourself. It's not something to be taken lightly when your ancestors are revealing things that have happened to you. And it's not something to be taken lightly when your ancestors are revealing the actions that you have taken that are tainting your bloodline and inhibiting your own progress, right? Especially if you went somewhere, wenza into emntwini, manje sekuyabola madoda, sekuyabola. Hamba uyolungisa iy'ndlela zakho. Hamba uyothethelela, hamba uyocela uxolo. It is not going to be cute because Chiron will leave Aries. It's currently in its final degrees of Aries and move into Taurus. And when we see that, we're going to see things come to ground in material consequence, right? Where right now you might be trying to rush through things and get things done and like a hop, skip, and a jump through a spiritual journey, a hop, skip, and a jump through something that you feel was a challenge. Maybe you blamed someone else for it, maybe, whatever it was. And the action that you took that related to that kind of thinking with regards to your own wounding right now as Chiron holds that final degree of Aries, it's the last chance saloon to look at yourself and be honest with yourself. And that is something that is so deeply supported by this full moon, because again, you have Mars currently in Scorpio, which is the ruler, which is a co-ruler of Mars with Aries, right? So the planet that rules Aries is currently in Scorpio, which brings in that energy of rebirth, which brings in that energy of what we call transmutation, right? Where you transmute, you take poison and turn it into medicine, where you take your mistakes and turn them into lessons. And again, there is another transit that is currently supporting that, which is Jupiter in Cancer squaring Chiron in Aries. So when we have a square, we have some tension. Jupiter in Cancer, that maternal energy, that birth energy, that like Iandisa, it brings expansion, it brings growth, it brings nurturing, right? And have I said understanding? Because the understanding part is so important. And the maternal aspect of Jupiter in Cancer is such that it speaks to the bloodline. It speaks to the waters of the womb. It speaks to where we are creating from and expanding from that place. And where you have done harm to that aspect of yourself or that aspect of another person, you are going to find yourself facing certain consequences. There was a transit late last year. I think it was around this time last year where we had Mars in Cancer. And I think it was Mars in Cancer, but it was a Cancer transit. And we had all those files just dropping, all those cases just opening about, previous sexual harassment, sexual assault, and this is kind of a graduation of that. Just because your number wasn't called when people were being called doesn't mean that the consequences of your actions are going to go unnoticed, are not going to be paid. Speaking to which, one of the major cases that came up during Mars in Cancer is one that has just been sentenced now during Jupiter in Cancer. If you understand me, consequences, consequences, consequences. If you know that you have done things, now is the time to reconcile with yourself. Now is the time to sit with yourself. Um, we act out of places of darkness when we have no understanding. We can make mistakes, we can harm, we can do bad things. It does not make us bad people. What makes us bad people is if we refuse to acknowledge the bad that we've done, if we refuse to acknowledge the harm that we've done. Yo, Makhosi. So this is a season in which one should be doing that work. And it will be well supported. It will be well supported. Way, yay, yay, yay. Makhosi. Yo, yo. Makhosi, Makhosi. Now, later this month, Jupiter and Chiron will form a trine with Saturn in Pisces, which is a placement that, a transit that represents a moment of support, right? Saturn and Pisces, again, the actions you're willing to take to bring your dreams to pass. Speaking to confronting your own wounding, speaking to how your own actions have inhibited your progress or tainted your bloodline. If you use this full moon to have a come to Jesus moment, if with no one else, yourself, your ancestors, and the God that you believe in, start there. Start there. What will be happening also tomorrow with this full moon is Mercury is going to move into Scorpio. Now, Mercury in Scorpio, again, Scorpio loves a secret, loves a secret, doesn't want things to be spoken about too loudly. The work, the words, the messages are between yourself and your ancestors and the truth. It's not a time maybe to be talking too much or having too many confrontations. Mars in Scorpio and Mercury in Scorpio at the same time, my goodness. Like, yeah, the words that you would say now under this transit are words that do, in fact, that cut in such a manner as to end things. Because the other ruler of Scorpio is Pluto, whom is the god of death. And so much will be revealed under this full moon in Aries that you're just ready to end, right? There's a lot of consideration that's been going on since Mars was in Libra. So since August, right? We have been making considerations, really thinking things through. The eclipse season came. It said take action. It said now is the time. If you haven't done it, if you haven't cleaned house, if you haven't accepted what it is that needs to end, here is your next chance. Here it is. Mars in Scorpio, full moon in Aries, Mercury in Scorpio. If you've been asking yourself, how do I say this? If you've been saying, oh, but I don't want to lose them, all of this, perhaps you do need to lose them. Perhaps this is the beginning of the next journey, because when we get to that new moon later this month, there is going to be so much energy in support of a completely new beginning, of a completely new start, that there are things that it is time to let go now. It is absolutely time to let go. Accept that. Accept that. Venus in Virgo will also be approaching an opposition with Saturn in Pisces. And that again encourages this consideration of what's not going to work. You know, Venus in Virgo wants things to look just so, just right. There can be a lot of perfectionism when Venus in Virgo is not in its highest iteration, right? People say Venus in Virgo is not a good placement. It's too dry. It's too nitpicky. It's all of these things. But you know what it is? It is a critical eye. And sometimes we do need a critical eye. Sometimes we do need to look at something and say, this is why that's not working. And there's no way of moving anything around that's going to make this work. It's not going to work because it's not sitting right. There is no balance here. There is no, Venus, the planet of love, in Virgo, the Virgin. People see this as a prude. Well, to be prudent in acts of love is a level of discipline, is a level of consideration, is a level of asking yourself, when I take this action, where does it lead? How does this benefit the whole? Yo, Makhosi. When we must consider this, we have to be honest. We have to be honest. And that Pisces, Saturn and Pisces opposition to Venus in Virgo is egging on this question of, does this even look like what I was dreaming of? And the thing is, at this moment in time, if you're not letting go of the things you've settled for, you're not making space for the things that you're destined for. And if you're not being honest with yourself about where you've settled, about where you're accepting less, about where it doesn't look like the thing that you were willing to work towards, it's going to be blowing up in your face. And you're going to see the ramifications of these decisions again in February when we see Neptune and Saturn make their conjunction. We're still in that 5-month window of time that was opened by the eclipse before February, where we can be taking actions to get into a place that is aligned with our highest truth, to get into a place that is us truly doing the work towards the dreams that we hold for our lives, right? And we have said multiple times that the consequences we're going to see come February will be material. You will see it in your material life. So don't think of this as something you do for anyone else. You do it for yourself. Whether it is your ancestors bringing things to your attention, whether it is colleagues, whether it is family members, when somebody is bringing it to your attention that, hey, there's action you're taking here that is, X, Y, and Z, when grievances are being brought forward and you're being deeply triggered, sit with that trigger, sit with it, and remember that a trigger is a gift. It shows you where you still need to do the work. It shows you where it is that you are still healing, how to direct your attention in the work of your healing. Embrace it. Do not be reactive to it. Again, remember, Mercury in Scorpio, Mars in Scorpio. At the same time, those words, if you rush to speak, they could cut deeper than you intended. The things that you want to be saying now are the things that have been on your spirit for like the last couple of months, right? You've been knowing, and now is the time to say it. Now is the time to articulate it, because when we get to the end of this month, we want to be in that place where we embrace the new moon, where we take the leap into the portals that become open for opportunity going forward. And if you're looking for a way in which to do this work between yourself or yourself and your ancestors and the God you believe in, we invite you to join Clearing into Consciousness. Clearing into Consciousness is a lifetime access course. We do it over the 3 days of the full moon. We open up the portal under the guidance of our ancestors into our shadow selves. We sit with the realizations that come from opening that portal and stepping into it. And then we release everything that no longer serves us. And then we close it back up and get back to the business of living. Because sometimes what can happen is that we can get stuck in a place of looking inward, looking inward, looking inward, and forget that life, the thing that's happening outside your door in your material reality, is what we came here for. Yes, we absolutely have our connections to our ancestors, which we must honor, which we must maintain, which we must nurture. And not for them, but for ourselves, because we chose these bloodlines, because these bloodlines carry the karma of our revelations and healing. And the more we deepen those relationships and connections, the more it is that we can know ourselves and understand the purpose that brought us into this lifetime during this period of time, right? So that's why we do clearing into consciousness, so that you can step in and step back out, right? Bageti, for all of you who are enrolled in clearing into consciousness, this month marks 6 months of my being back to work full time. And that means that we are going to restart our monthly sessions, where we get together and speak about our revelations and etc., and begin to hold space. Please note that we have moved platforms. If you have not signed your NDA, you are probably not going to have your login information for the new platform because, once again, we are working to create safe space here. We want to be able to speak uh, openly and freely, and that can only happen when we know that everybody in the room is holding the space with us. When we are sharing, it should not be such that there's an inhibition that holds us back from sharing because somebody in this room is just sitting here observing but not doing the work and not having honored yo our mutual privacy. Emakoseni. So please make sure that you sign those NDAs. They're still available on the old portal, and surely you have one, a copy of one in your mailbox. If you've signed it before, please don't send it again. Please don't send it again. Just hit me with a hey, I haven't received my login if you haven't, right? Otherwise, I will see you in there this Wednesday and we'll chat about what it is that came up. But let's get started with this full moon tomorrow. Let's do the work. Let's give ourselves the honor that we deserve. Let's give our shadow selves, the parts of ourselves that have acted in defense of us, that have acted from not knowing. Let's give them the compassion that they deserve. Let's give our inner children safe space to cry the tears that need to be cried. Let's give our grief space to be grieved. All right. I'll see you inside Clearing into Consciousness. Otherwise, it has, as always, been a privilege to be in your presence. I do not take it lightly that you choose to spend this time with me. Until next time, kudedu bomnyama kuvela ukukhanya. Makhosi.